Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Swetland seminar. My name is Linnea Webb. I'm a community engaged research specialist here at the Swetland Center. Please share your name and the organization you represent in the chat box, and I'll try to monitor the chat throughout the seminar today, and we'll have a Q&A session at the end. So if you're not familiar with the Swetland Center, in the late 1950s, David Swetland and Marion Swetland felt not enough was understood about unintended health consequences of chemical, agricultural, and industrial products in our environment. And they focused the Marion Swetland Professorship of Environmental Health Sciences on preventative medicine and threats of man-made environmental hazards. So all graduating doctors would have an interest in an understanding of the impact of the environment on human health. So today, the Swetland Center continues Marion Swetland's legacy by building partnerships to find and scale solutions to redress the environment's disparate impact on low resource populations in Cleveland and beyond. And our mission is to study the complex interplay between environmental determinants and population health outcomes.
People are trying to
Yes.
Okay.
So the center places a special emphasis on community engaged approaches that address the role of structural racism in creating and sustaining environmental health inequities. And we seek to translate these findings into policies, practices, and relationships that promote community and population health equity. So to the right of your screen here, you'll see this triangle that demonstrates our core areas of focus: training and education, community engagement, and research. If you're interested in learning more about the Swetland Center, you can check out our website at case.edu/Swetland or email us at swetlandcenter@case.edu. Okay, we have a few upcoming events in June. On June 17th, Saturday from 12 to 5 p.m., we are partnering with the Buckeye Summer Soul Series Juneteenth celebration as part of the Nourishing Power networking event. So we'll have a table there. There's going to be entertainment, food, giveaways, lots of vendors. That's open and free to the public. So you're welcome to attend that. And then our next Swetland seminar will be July 25th from 9 to 10 a.m. Dr. Usua Yamoa, Dr. Tim Sisilski, Rachel Summer, Eleanor Gillerlin-Hinkes, and Bianca Butts will present the results of the community health needs assessment for the Central Kinsman and Buckeye neighborhoods. And registration details are on our website, and I'll be adding that to the chat in just a moment. Okay. So for today's seminar, our presenter is Miranda Leppla. She's the director of the Environmental Law Clinic within the Milton and Charlotte Kramer Law Clinic at Case Western Reserve University School of Law, which handles environmental and energy justice matters. She joined the faculty in 2022 to start the new clinic after over 5 years serving as the vice president of energy policy and lead energy council at the Ohio Environmental Council, where she led the energy team's campaigns and initiatives to promote and advance clean energy, energy efficiency, mitigate climate change, and secure stronger public health safeguards for Ohioans.
Yeah, I think you might be sharing the second screen instead of the presentation mode. I think you're sharing your screen on your left-hand side instead of
the other one. Oh, okay. Stop share.
Yeah, see how it's highlighted over screen one.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Okay.
I was going to ask, but I didn't want to interrupt you because I couldn't tell if it was just because I was a presenter that I could see something.
No,
funny,
please
so.
stop me. So this one,
Screen
No, at the
two.
top, the second.
this,
Yep.
that's what I want to share. Oh, okay. Let's do that. Okay, does that look good now?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for pointing that out. I had no idea. Okay. And then let's see. Miranda was also lead counsel in all energy litigation matters, represented the OEC as well as other nonprofits at the Public Utilities Commission of Ohio, the Ohio Power Siting Board, and courts throughout the state of Ohio. Prior to that, Miranda was in private practice for several years where she focused on litigation and energy matters. Miranda holds a BA in Law, Letters, and Society from the University of Chicago and a JD from the Ohio State University Michael E. Moritz College of Law, where she was the editor-in-chief of the Ohio State Journal of Criminal Law. Miranda is also a faculty affiliate of the Swetland Center. So very excited to hear from Miranda today about the Environmental Law Clinic, and I'll turn it over to you to share your slides.
Great, thank you so much. and it's great to be here with everybody. I will do my best. I was got a laugh out of what you were doing, but now I'm like, now it's my turn to share slides, so hopefully I do it right. All right. Can you guys all see that okay? Oops.
Yes.
Okay. Great. Give me 1 second. Oh, see, I did the same thing now, guys. Oh. Give me 1 second, you guys. I apologize. You guys all see that now? I'm not sure what I was doing wrong.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. All right, give me 1 second. I'll be right back. Okay, it's Tuesday, but it feels like a Monday. I don't know about you guys. I had computer problems this morning where it restarted on me, and I'm not sure what's going on with my computer, but I think it's working. So if for some reason you can't see it and I'm still talking, someone just interrupt me. So again, it's great to be here with everybody, and I apologize. You have to continue to stare at my face that was on this slide and the last one that Linnea showed. But I am really excited to be here with you guys today to talk a little bit about the environmental law clinic here at the law school at Case. We have now been open for 2 full semesters, which is really exciting. And it was brand new in the fall of 2022, as Linnea mentioned. So with that, I will not force you to watch my face anymore twice. So I thought I'd just start because this is something that as an attorney and somebody that went through a law clinic when I was in law school, I realized not everyone knows exactly what a law clinic is. So I thought I'd start here. And I just would say, you know, I'm really excited and was really excited when I got this role because Case Western has a long history of being a leader in this experiential education space. Last year, I believe, was the 50th anniversary of the law clinic starting. And so we've expanded many, many times since then. But for a law school to have a law clinic for 50 years is really fairly unheard of. Most of it was doctrinal learning. And so this is really an opportunity to kind of put the practical skills into effect for students before they leave, so they have the chance to get mentored very closely by folks that have been in the profession for a while and work with real clients. So that's what's really exciting about law clinics, just on a general level. And it's just really important because often if you don't get this hands-on training, you can graduate, take the bar, you're thrown into the legal profession, and hope that you get a good mentor when you're out there. And so this gives folks a jump start on that, which is really, really wonderful for them and for their clients that they're going to have when they graduate and start their practice. So the goals of the clinic, you know, we have intentional, you know, purposes of kind of how we run each of these. The Milton and Charlotte Kramer Law Clinic, which is our general firm as a whole, we have various clinics within that, but that's our in-house law firm essentially. And this is high quality, in our opinion, obviously, no cost legal help and legal advice for folks that need it in the community. And we focus on the Northeast Ohio region, although we have occasionally taken some things outside of this region, which you'll hear a little bit about, something that the clinic is doing that's on a broader scale. But we do have 10 clinics and 4 practicums. So a practicum is something that can be taken by first and second year students, depending on kind of what the purpose and goal is of the clinic, or I'm sorry, of the practicum. We have over 15 faculty members that are experienced attorneys that have been working in their areas of expertise that do this work. So we represent, like I said, different types of clients and client groups that can't afford an attorney or can't get an attorney on their own. And I believe the last total, I was looking at this, more than 350 cases per year and approximately 35,000 hours of pro bono legal service. So we're very proud to be serving the community in this way, and also serving the students that are eventually going to become practicing attorneys. So like I said, this is one of the things that is unique about CASE, and it's not only CASE that does this, but not everywhere has this requirement. But we do have what's called a capstone requirement. And so students are required to get at least 6 credits and up to 12 of a capstone. And that ensures that all students graduating from here have a hands-on experiential learning opportunity prior to graduation. That can either be through these clinics that I was talking about and that the environmental law clinic is, or it can be through an externship. And so externships can be with a judge, they can be with a government office that's doing legal work. They can be with lots of different types of things. They could be with a small firm, lots of different options for students here to get the type of experience and hands-on work that they're really interested in doing when they graduate. But they can do that through our in-house programs, like I said, through a clinic. And so our clinics that are offered, you can see here, criminal justice, second chance reentry. We do a lot of work helping folks with expungements and things to get back on their feet if they've been incarcerated. We have a health law clinic, which the environmental law clinic has partnered with on several things. So we do cross clinic partnerships sometimes. We have an immigration clinic, human trafficking, community development clinic, which does some really interesting work trying to help startup businesses in the community get off the ground. Often they're nonprofits. Intellectual property. We have a First Amendment clinic that's done some really interesting work over the recent years. I think they're the newest, other than the environmental law clinic. We have an appellate clinic that takes appeals from folks that otherwise wouldn't have anyone to represent them. And then, like I said, most recently, environmental law clinic. So we've been open, our doors have been open exactly 1 year now, and 2 semesters, I guess, 1 academic year. And we're really proud that Case Western is ranked in the top 10 in the nation for this experiential education process. And like I said, it's not just the clinic that we include in that experiential learning. Our students, start working with clients very early in the process. And so it's very exciting for us to see this type of thing for our students, because it's going to make them better lawyers. It's going to make them, much more able to hit the ground running when they begin their practice next year for some of our students, because we take 3rd years. So it's very exciting. So why an environmental law clinic? And this is something, again, like I said, we are the newest clinic here at Case out of the 10. And, we're seeing more and more urgent need for lawyers in the environmental and energy law space. And I can say from my experience, previously, I was in private practice for about 6 years, doing general litigation and energy and environmental work. And then I was most recently at the Ohio Environmental Council, where I ran the energy program. And I can tell you from my experience there, we need more lawyers trained in this work. And so when the opportunity came up at Case Western, I was really excited to have the chance to help develop this and to work with students who are interested in this, because this is something I would have loved to have when I was in law school, to be able to do this work and work with clients on these types of matters. So our goal here is to really offer this critical expertise for environmental and energy justice work, which is what we focus on. And like I said, expanding the pipeline of environmental legal advocates. And I say particularly in Ohio, and I can tell you my students are probably tired of me trying to keep them in the state, because when they graduate, I would really love to have them stay here and look at the problems that we've got in Ohio and help solve those. So it's really exciting to have this open up in the state. And we are the first and only environmental law clinic in Ohio. And really importantly, this complements the Case Western's Coleman Burke Center for Environmental Law, which is a really wonderful law center. There was a huge endowment, $10 million given by Coleman Burke to Case Western to start this, and they focus on environmental scholarship. There are scholarships given to students to come to Case that are interested in environmental law. And I believe our first students that received those scholarships graduated this year, actually, and several of them were in the clinic. So it's really, really wonderful that we've got this opportunity to have our students get interested in this, to find a place that they're able to come and really pursue their passion, and then hopefully get this set of skills and toolkit essentially to allow them to really hit the ground running when they graduate, pass the bar, and then move forward in their careers. And I saw Addison just joined, so sorry to embarrass you, Addison, but I'm very excited. Like I said, I gave you a little bit about my background, and I am the inaugural Stanley and Hope Adelstein director, and Stanley Hope Adelstein also are the reason that this clinic exists. They funded the first 3 years of this clinic, and you know, we're working through other pieces of our funding, but we're already growing. Unfortunately and fortunately, there are a lot of issues and a lot of need for an environmental law clinic in the state, and a lot of unmet need, which is where the clinic comes in. And so I was really excited to get a grant to bring Addison on from the Cleveland Foundation. So he's our first environmental law clinic fellow. And Addison, I know you're on there, so you can wave to everybody. But very, very excited to have Addison on board. Addison is from Dayton, Ohio, so he's an Ohioan as well. He went to Miami University for undergrad and then graduated from Duke Law. And I actually had met him once before because he did a bridge to practice, it's called, from Duke, prior to finding out his bar results, and actually worked at the Ohio Environmental Council. So I think I'd met him once in person and a couple of times over Zoom during his work with the OEC. So really, really excited to have him here. And also Addison's got some really interesting background. He ran for state representative in the Dayton area just back in 2021 and did an excellent job, only lost by a point. Lucky for me, so that he could come and work at the clinic. So really, really excited to have Addison on board and working in this space. So next, just to give you guys, I know I explained kind of what law clinics are, but to give you a kind of practical sense of how the clinic actually works. Our goal is to develop skills in our students through both practical training and this hands-on client work, actually working with real cases, real clients. So our goal is to make sure that they understand these different legal issues at the federal, state, and local levels. Agency level hearings are important, and we really ground our students in movement lawyering concepts. So another term, movement lawyering or community lawyering. So our goal is for our students to get an understanding of the needs of the community so that when they go out and help, they are part of the solution, not advising the client exactly on what they need, right? It's a common thing that attorneys, you know, we are, a lot of us type A folks, and we do have a lot of great ideas and important things to convey, but it is really, really important to understand that your client often is the expert. They're an expert in their own community. They're an expert in the problems that they're facing. And it's really, really critical for our students to come out of law school with a good mindset and a good understanding that they are in the service industry and they're there to help. So we harp on that a lot in our class to make sure that students really understand what they're there for and how they can help their clients. And so as part of that, they learn really practical legal skills, how to conduct a factual investigation, how to interview witnesses, how to interview their clients when they first start these, how to prepare affidavits, looking at administrative rulings, which I would admit was a weakness of mine when I was in law school. I didn't do much in the administrative setting, and that's regulatory rules, all those types of things that get done fairly rapidly that aren't as public usually, I would say. And so that stuff's really important for students to understand and learn. They've had the opportunity this year to draft motions and pleadings, which has been great. And we have had several cases where we're looking at who to work with as far as expert witnesses on different topics that we've looked at. And while they haven't had the chance to argue any motions, they have had lots of opportunities to present before judges on different things that there are concerns for our clients and speak on behalf of those clients. So it's been really, really excellent, I would say, on the practical side so far. And then we also look at the legislative process and, like I said, rulemakings, and we do other types of interdisciplinary environmental policy work for clients that are trying to improve processes that affect the environment and affect the environmental health. So it's been a really important component of this to make sure that our students have this holistic understanding of these various legal needs and issues in the environmental and energy justice space. So while it can seem sometimes that it's a little more finite, this is, broad skill set. And I will say we've had a really interesting set of students over the last couple of years, or last couple of semesters rather. And we had, our first semester, we had lots of students that were like, I'm going to be an environmental attorney. This is what I want to do with my life. I'm really passionate about this. And then we've also had students that are, have come to us and said, I'm going to go into real estate law, but I think this is really important for me to understand because there's vacant property issues and green space issues and how to develop a city that has good transportation, all kinds of things like this that are important. We've had students that come in and they're going into the tax space. And there's a lot going on right now. If you guys are familiar with the Inflation Reduction Act or the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act that had a lot to do with different types of jobs, credits and things like that. So it's been really great to see kind of a wide breadth of students coming in and really taking lessons, I think, that are important for their future careers, but also making sure that they can spread the word about these environmental energy injustices that our clients are facing. So it's been really exciting to kind of see some of our students developed and see how they are connecting, these important concepts that will better the lives of people in Northeast Ohio and beyond to the types of careers they're going into, even if it's not directly environmental. So that's been pretty rewarding, I would say. So clinic planning, and this is just to give you an understanding. Again, this clinic was brand new when I was hired. I was very lucky to come into a role that was completely undeveloped, and design it was a little overwhelming. I will say I was nervous at first, but it's been really great because, again, the goal was to create this interdisciplinary type of clinic where we're looking at environmental law and policy problems on behalf of individual clients, organizations, environmental groups, nonprofits, and community organizations. Because there's a wide need that's unmet for environmental assistance in Northeast Ohio and beyond. So again, like I said, we have classes 2 times a week where the students come in. That can vary between having a real discussion about policy concepts and legal concepts related to environment. It can be, we need to really have a deep dive on how to question someone because one of our students might have an upcoming event in their case that they need to have a good understanding and practice for. It can also just be doing what we call case rounds. So our students updating each other on the work that they've been doing, because what's really great about this, which is a downside and a great thing, right? They can't learn everything in 1 semester or 2 semesters if they decide to stay on for advanced clinic. But what they can learn is getting really deep into the cases and the clients that they work on behalf of, and then learning from their peers who are taking on different types of cases as well. So it's been really exciting to see the students, get excited about hearing about their fellow students' cases, even if they're not directly on it, and also watching them brainstorm and learn from each other and learn about the types of, whether it's litigation or policy work or different types of, building processes that they think might eventually be the way to go for their clients. So like I said, we have 3rd-year law students. It's under Ohio law. The way our system is set up, we have to have 3rd-year students. In some other states, you can have 2nd or even 1st-year students that are allowed to practice. However, in Ohio, they have to have a certain number of hours that qualifies them as a 3rd-year law student. And then they are enrolled in our clinic for 20 hours a week, essentially. So it's 6 credit hours, 6 semester credit hours. And then they are assigned clients when they get in here. And again, in the fall, our first semester, the students were really critical in helping us learn about our clients, set up our cases, understand what our clients' needs were. And then, at the end of the semester, they make sure to write a very thorough memo about all the great work that they did. And me and now Addison, luckily on as our second practicing attorney in the clinic, we, train the next group of students that come in on what's happened so far in the case. They get to read all of the different things that have happened in the case that are written, and then they take over. So our clients have been really, really wonderful to work with and understanding, and really appreciate that they're also helping train future environmental attorneys. So it's been very, very exciting to see the reactions from our clients and how much they appreciate the help from the students. And it's been great to see how much the students are getting out of it as well. And then, like I said, I mentioned this briefly, but our students are able to stay on for advanced environmental law clinic. If they start in the fall semester, they're able to stay on for 2nd semester. And that can kind of range depending on how much time they have in their schedule. from 3 credits to 6 credits, so they can continue working and then participating in the legal clinic, which is a lot of fun, I think, for them, especially, you know, they're almost ready to graduate and they're doing real legal work. And so they're really getting this great experience, hands-on experience before they enter the workforce. Well, before they take the bar and then enter the workforce, I should say. So it's been a really great experience. And that's kind of how we set this up and the planning process that we went through. And I will say, I think I had over 100 meetings, and I think this is on the next slide, actually, now that I say that. I mentioned this earlier, but I think one of the things that's super critical is really understanding community needs. And that is why we teach movement or community lawyering as part of our components here. So over the first 6 or so months, to understand the community needs, I guess we started to call it kind of a scoping effort, which sounds a lot more transactional than it was. But I met with over 100 community groups, environmental organizations, and leaders in Northeast Ohio. And then across the country, I met with environmental clinicians to get an understanding of how their clinics function, because they all work very, very differently. Some clinics have much less credit. They'll do just a 3 credit versus a 6 credit. Some do the entire year. They can just be full-time in the clinic entirely. So I did those kind of first 6 months over all those meetings. And then I had a bunch more meetings scheduled throughout the summer last year. But we did start taking clients and cases on in June or July of 2022. And then officially opened our doors in the fall of 2022 for our first semester, which was really exciting. And I think, you know, the question that I kept thinking through when we were putting this all together is, what are the environmental energy justice needs and issues that exist in Northeast Ohio? And there are many, unfortunately. So there's more work than we can take on. Again, one of the reasons I was so excited to have Addison join, because we can do more and explain things in a better way and have more student interaction with clients for the long term. So that's why it's just very exciting to see this kind of taking off to a different type of level. So what type of work is the environmental law clinic engaged in? So there are certain things I can share with you, and there are certain that are public, and certain things I of course can't because they are confidential. So I'll give you some kind of specifics that I can talk about, and then I can give you some sort of general explanation on some of these different things. But the first, and this is a great photo of 2 of our clinic students, Emma Giesemann and Matthew Kautsky, and then 2 organizers, Damian Powell and Thomas Powell from River Valley Organizing. And I'm sure everyone on here has heard about the train derailment in East Palestine, and we saw a real need. There have been over 30 class action lawsuits filed in this case, so it was very clear that nobody needed us to file a lawsuit necessarily on their behalf. But what we felt was really confusing for folks is, you know, there's a lot of folks descended on the town for the right reasons to try to help and set these lawsuits up. But it's very overwhelming and confusing for a community to have all these different attorneys promising them similar but different things. And so there's a misunderstanding often about what a class action lawsuit is versus an individual lawsuit. There are lots of different questions about, housing issues. If you were near the site of the train derailment, what requirements or obligations does your landlord have versus are you able to get out of your lease, things like that. So lots and lots of different questions that have arisen as a result of the train derailment in East Palestine. Lots of issues about whether or not the water is safe to drink, what's going to happen in the future. And so in collaboration with River Valley Organizing and Fair Shake Environmental Legal Services, who had started to develop and work with River Valley Organizing early, we had reached out to Fair Shake Environmental Legal Services because we were interested in what was going on there. And they had hosted a town hall on it. And so together with attorneys from Fair Shake, we decided that it might be a good idea to start hosting these legal clinics, free legal clinics for folks in the community that couldn't get answers elsewhere. So through that process, we also brought in Ohio Environmental Council, has a couple of attorneys on staff that have helped, and then community legal aid, because like I said, there were some housing questions. And so we wanted to be as helpful as we could, answering the environmental questions that exist, but also making sure we're answering broader legal questions about, like I said, class actions versus individual lawsuits, and housing and rental issues and things like that. So we held our first one in April 15th, I believe was the date. And we had a good reception and worked really well with the River Valley Organizing team. Was really incredible because, again, one of the things that's very upsetting when you have a disaster like this happen in a community is who they can trust and who they can't. And so our goal was to partner with somebody who has trust on the ground. And so we worked, like I said, very closely with River Valley Organizing, and then Fair Shake Environmental Legal and Community Legal Aid do a lot of work in Columbiana County and other areas nearby. So it's been really great partnership to work with those folks. And we are currently in the midst of planning our second one, which will be June 10th. And because this is unfortunately going to be an ongoing issue, our plan and hope is to just continue to host these maybe every 2 to 3 months. And maybe, sooner if there's a huge development in one of the cases that we really need to educate or feel like people are going to have questions about. So if you know anybody that has need, we are really excited about these and really proud of the students for doing some research, making sure they understand this stuff and giving, appropriate legal advice at these. So it was really great for our first effort in April. And like I said, we'll be back there June 10th for our next one. And this is what I said, most of our work is in Northeast Ohio. However, we have taken on a case or two that are more statewide. So we are representing the Ohio Environmental Council along with their attorneys and Earth Justice in a matter about House Bill 507. And this was the piece of legislation that was originally about how many poultry chicks could be in a lot and how many could be sold. And through the lame duck process, transformed very quickly. I believe it tripled in size to add in different components related to energy. So originally it was an agriculture bill. And our argument is that this has transformed very quickly over, a week or so into a much larger bill that addresses or defines natural gas as green energy, number one. And two, it opened up our public lands to the oil and gas industry until the time the rulemaking goes into effect, which we're still waiting on that component. And so the way this looks is that it would be a requirement for anybody that applied to the state to immediately get this ability to lease the property and frack underneath public lands. So we're very excited to be working with this coalition of folks, Buckeye Environmental Network, the Ohio Valley Allies, and Sierra Club. And we did file a temporary restraining order and a preliminary injunction along with our complaint. We unfortunately lost the temporary restraining order, but we are still in the process of briefing the case in full. So that has been submitted and we are waiting on the state's reply along with Ohio Department of Natural Resources. So that is one broader component that the clinic has been involved in and continues to litigate right now. And then there are a number of things like I said, that are not as public and I can't share just directly, but I can give you an idea of some of the things that we're doing. So we are representing a nonprofit organization to ensure a landfill in the area is properly capped. And that's to make sure that there is health and safety and environmental protections for the nearby community. Methane leaking is a problematic. We want to make sure that these folks are both aware that it poses a danger and also that they have someone working for them to make sure that they're as protected as possible. And the goal really, if this could transform into an exciting story, that's really would be the best and most, the most beneficial. And there are examples of this. The Brooklyn landfill is one great example of a landfill being transformed into something that's productive. It's now covered in solar panels that power different components of the county buildings. So that's a really exciting story. And I don't know that that's what's going to happen here. But the most important thing is that we just ensure the health and safety of the community nearby. So we're taking a look at that. There's also issues with kind of the waterway and other things that we've looked at as a result of that. So that's one other component of that we're looking at. Other things that we're working on, we're working with local residents on different air quality concerns that they have. There have been several tree canopy issues that have popped up. And I think most folks probably on this know, but the tree canopy issue can be a very broad issue, not just for, if it's decimated, there can be real issues with heat islands and problems in that manner, especially as, we're seeing rising temperatures. But also just lots of different issues on the ground that affect human health. So that's a really important one as well. We've gotten some calls about folks having trouble installing solar on their rooftops in their homeowners associations. And that used to be a problem that sometimes you couldn't help with, but thanks to Senate Bill 61 that was passed last General Assembly, you cannot prevent folks from putting solar on their rooftops and homeowners associations, as long as it's if it's an unreasonable restriction. So, so we've gotten lots of calls about that. And then many more different, calls from local residents that are seeing different types of environmental issues in their communities and in their backyard. Another component of this, we're seeing a lot of, and this is, I come from an energy background. Like I said, I was, when I got to the Ohio Environmental Council originally, I was a clean energy attorney, and then I took over the energy program. So I was doing lots of work on energy issues and energy justice issues. So we're doing lots of a variety of different things in this space, assisting clients with community solar efforts, and then also really looking very closely at affordability and reliability issues. This summer will be interesting. Power and energy supply, electricity supply has typically been relatively reasonable in the state of Ohio for quite a long time. But we're expecting to see rates double or triple, unfortunately, this summer. And so that's going to have an impact on residents, and trying to make sure we can find ways, number one, for those, folks to have affordable energy and reliable energy. And also, if we can switch toward cleaner energy, of course, is a goal that will help with human health and environmental impacts as well. So that's just a little kind of broad scope of kind of what we're looking at in the energy justice space. And then another piece of work we've been doing is what's the best use of vacant property. This city of Cleveland and Cuyahoga County, and then most of parts of Northeast Ohio, were hit very hard by the foreclosure crisis in 2008. And also, even before that in the 80s, with different types of flight from the community. There's a lot of vacant property that could be put to much better use or put back into use more quickly. So trying to make sure that there's an easy, streamlined process for vacant property and access to green space is something that Clinic has also been working on. So lots of different things, as you can tell, kind of a broad scope of this stuff, because it's really, again, fortunately, we've got a lot of skill sets that we can bring into this stuff. Unfortunately, there's a lot of need for this. And I know Addison can tell you too, we wish we could take on every single call we get. And unfortunately we can't, but we are doing as much as possible. And our students have been really excellent and really dedicated to their clients. I've been very, very impressed with the students, over the last year and their interest in this. And I think a lot of them, whether or not they go directly into environmental law, feel much better prepared for the practice of law when they leave here. And for those that are going to environmental law, I know they feel like this has gotten them a really strong base when they go into their practice, or when they go into a job interview, for example, they can talk about this real practical work that they've been able to do on behalf of their clients when they were part of the clinic. So it's a very exciting, effort to be part of. And, it's only our first year, so we've done quite a lot of work already. And it's very exciting to see kind of how we'll proceed, through the next, the summer and then into the next year. And just to make sure full understanding of this, our work doesn't stop in the summertime. Our clinics continues to run. Addison and I just take over the casework. And we do have a couple of summer interns that'll be working with the clinic. So you might run into one of them at an event, but it's very exciting, like I said, to have this opportunity. And also very exciting, I think, as someone that's seen a real need for, either low cost or free representation, because folks just can't afford to have these types of problems addressed. So we feel really privileged to be doing this work on behalf of community members and across Northeast Ohio. So I think with that, I'm happy to take any questions folks might have. I will stop share so you guys don't have to look at that. So
I have a question. So if can you hear me okay?
Yes. Yeah.
So thanks for answering the question about the summer, but just in general, like about your clinic or any of the law clinics, how does the community or find out about it? I mean, obviously I know you, and so I knew that existed, but when you put up that list, I was like, oh, I did not know that there were all these clinics. And I quickly Googled, and obviously I can look on your website, but I'm just curious if there are other forms of outreach. And then also, like, I'm sure you get so many, so like, if you can't help or other clinics can't help, like, is there a secondary path that they refer? So maybe it's multiple questions in one, but
all good questions. I mean, I think that there's a lot of different ways that our organizations try and make sure that people know we exist. Like I said, part of, I had those like 100+ meetings when I first joined the clinic in January of 2022 because nobody knew we existed. And so I kind of started with, who I had worked with in the past. And then at the end of every meeting said, who else should I meet with to talk to them about, what we do. And meeting with those different community groups and nonprofits is really important because they can then say, hey, if you have, they see these legal problems in their community or whoever is having them, they can say, who you could call. The Environmental Law Clinic at Case does, for pro bono work. And same for any kind of issue. Our First Amendment clinic has done some really interesting work. And, and there's also things that happen in some of our cases that we can work together on, right? I feel bad that I didn't say this. I meant to say it. The East Palestine Clinic, our health law clinic, is now going to come with us in June, because we're seeing a lot of issues related to that and felt like it was really important to have our health law clinic there as well. So we're very excited that they'll be able to join us down there, and our summer clerks are going to come too. So again, it's, it's really great experience for them. And it's also just really, really important for community members to have a voice that's not soliciting or attempting to get clients, just to explain things to them. I know there's lots of paperwork that folks are getting, asking them to sign different things, and that can be really overwhelming, and it can be too expensive for folks to go ask somebody to read it and make sure that it's okay for them to sign. So we're doing all kinds of different things like that. I would say otherwise our health law clinic, and I think I might even have a flyer for them too. Yeah. So like to give you an example, like our health law clinic had a wills and trusts, free wills clinic. I don't know if I'm holding it up right.
Yeah.
So they do different things, our clinics do different things around the community to try to make sure that people know, number one, get those types of needs met, because lots of folks don't have wills, right? And that's really important if something were to happen to you. So making sure people have that access, and then explaining, when we're there, what else we can do, or what else types of cases we can address if people do have these other types of problems. I think I answered most of your question, Rachel, but was there another piece? I feel like there was something else I didn't get to.
That was really helpful. I think just, kind of, obviously you can't take all the cases that come to you. So then is there a secondary path?
Yes. Thank you. I was like, I knew there was something else. A really important component is trying to make sure that we have folks and offices we can refer people out to. So there are many types of things where they'll come to us, and while we may not be able to help, we can certainly refer folks to other attorneys, and do our very best to make sure that they have resources that they need, and access to the attorneys that they need. I know many of our clinics have worked closely with legal aid over the years on different topics, and we also get calls from other entities like that as well, if they can't take something on. So it really is, an effort to be part of the legal community here, be part of the environmental community for us here, or the health law community, or whatever, type of, focus that clinic has, to make sure that if we need something, or if someone needs something comes to us, we can refer them to someone that can help if we can't, and vice versa. So it really is really important for us to show up in the community, go to events, make sure people know we exist, and make sure they get the help that they need.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We had a question. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
There's
Sorry.
a question from Tim in the chat here. Tim, I don't know if you want to come off mute and ask, or.
Sure. First, I just wanted to say thanks to Randy and Addison for being here. I mentioned that I'm just proud that Case Western has you guys here doing this work. So thank you. And then the substantive part is, that as you edit, I had this experience when you were talking in Karen's environmental health class. I found myself getting very mad when you were talking about the state lands. It seems just egregious, no matter what your political stripes are. Do you think the gerrymandered nature of the state is like a root problem, that sort of elephant in the room that obviously keeps you guys busy, but maybe is something that needs addressing in order to make big progress?
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that. So I will say we don't do that. We're an environmental law clinic purely.
Yeah.
So that's the work that we do. But I will say that my old position at Ohio Environmental Council, democracy was one of the key tenets. We did public lands, water, energy, and democracy was a fourth pillar that Ohio Environmental Council focuses on, because there was concern that we weren't able to achieve the things that Ohioans wanted because we had some issues with our democracy. So I would point you to them for that question, because they did a great job.
Thank you, Randy.
Yeah,
And thank you, Addison, too.
and thanks for the kind words. I appreciate that. So. Any other questions? I saw Nancy come off mute. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I saw you come off mute, so.
Yes, how do you prioritize which cases to take? And I know you mentioned that sometimes it's free or at a small fee. Like, how do you decide who pays for something and who doesn't?
Yeah, so there are requirements under the way the state of Ohio has it set up, that we take folks that otherwise can't obtain an attorney. And so while our assessment isn't quite as strict as legal aid, for example, who has a strict income-based requirement, it is, you know, the way we're set up is that we're structured to only take on clients that otherwise wouldn't be able to obtain or afford an attorney for the type of work they're looking at. So that's really kind of our basis for things. And, you know, I will say, you know, looking at some of the different topic areas, and this is not something we've done so far, but I know, for example, in the Tulane Law Clinic is one of the most famous environmental law clinics because they took on BP during the oil spill down there in the Gulf. And one of the things that they had looked at was nobody could get attorneys to fight back because they were fighting a giant, and most of the attorneys were conflicted out or couldn't help. So there have been clinics that take it that way. That's not something that we've done so far, but there's just a lot of different ways, and it does vary widely from state to state, kind of how those are set up. Like I said, not just on who you can take as a client, but who can practice. Right, in Ohio, only our third-year law students are permitted to do this, just based on the way that we are structured and set up. But our first and second-year students can take practicums, and practicums could be project-based. So we do not have that right now, but with Addison coming on, we might start one of these. But we can bring folks on to actually do project-based work and research, and not you know, full legal kind of representation. So that's something we're looking at too. But again, you know, I did try very hard, to your point of not taking on too much or trying to prioritize things. Our first year, you know, I feel like we've accomplished a lot. But we also tried to stay at a scale that was reasonable and understandable. You know, number one, I'm a new faculty member, so I'm learning, you know, the ropes on teaching and how I can best serve the students, and also at the same time making sure that whatever we take on, we're best serving our clients.
Thank you.
Randy, I had a question, and just first of all, thank you for the talk and the work that you're doing. Very exciting, and I'm curious if you think there are opportunities for partnership between the Swetland Center and the law clinic, and you know, maybe even just hearing some of the cases where the work, either there's a research question that you think we need to be exploring, or there's a, you know, kind of partnership opportunity to, you know, within our center, we do focus on policy systems change. So I was curious what you thought about that.
Yeah, I definitely do. I mean, I think, you know, looking at different types of things, you know, like, well, there are lots of different ways I think we could probably partner. And I think one of the things that is difficult about an environmental clinic, it can be very expensive to prove your case. And we need people with science backgrounds, people that can analyze data, all those different things. Really, really important for us to make sure that we're properly serving our client. I was lucky to get a grant to make sure that we have that opportunity. We have those resources if we need them. But I also think being at an institution like Case Western, if somebody's got a focus in a particular area already, and they're already doing research and funded to do it, there's always an opportunity to partner in that way. And I also think, and, you know, this may be something that we should talk about later as well, but, you know, we have everything that we've done, and our health law clinic has done all kinds of different really wonderful things over the years. But because we're now here as an environmental clinic, you know, we've had lots of conversations about doing some joint work in the environmental health space, because almost everything we do is environmental health, right? There's lots of things that are, you know, we can talk about the House Bill 507 as an example. You know, that is certainly an environmental issue because we could have damage, you know, if there is some type of oil spill, but methane, you know, emissions and all these other things that can come along with fracking and then damage potentially to our state parks. Those are environmental health issues. And so almost everything that we do and everything we touch is an environmental health issue. So I think there's, you know, numerous ways that we could certainly partner together. And one of the reasons I was very excited to be a faculty affiliate with Swetland Center, because I think you guys do such incredible work and really necessary work. And that data, like I said, and information is really, really crucial for any kind of, proof necessary to build a case.
I did have one other question just around the model, the training model. So you have a clinic, all law students, and I know there's been a big push across Case Western, especially in the health sciences, for interprofessional education. So for example, all students in the health sciences, social work, medicine, public health, dental, PA, etc., they all work together in their first year on a shared learning, community engaged project. Huge number of students. I mean, it's a big army almost of people going out, working together, learning a lot like you're doing in your law clinic, but also working directly with community partners and hopefully providing some service. So I'm wondering if there is an opportunity to integrate law students into this interprofessional, if you've talked to them about that.
Yeah, I will say that I actually got an email not that long ago about someone trying to set something up similar to that. And I don't remember if you were on it or not, but I think that that's a great idea. I will say, again, just having wrapped up our first year, I tried to I often bite off more than I can chew because I get so excited about these different projects. But for our first year, I tried my best to limit kind of what we were doing. But I think there are endless possibilities for this kind of work. Unfortunately and fortunately, right? I mean, I think it's great that we are able to train, the next generation of leaders in all these different spaces. The unfortunate thing is there's so much need for it because we do have all these environmental health problems. So my hope is that we could do something interdisciplinary. I think some of the classes I took in undergrad were my favorite ones that were interdisciplinary. I remember learning from somebody in the economics department and humanities at the same time on a topic. And so I think it's really crucial to the education of folks going into these spaces to understand kind of the breadth of the problems they're looking at and dealing with, because I think too often we get siloed either in, a legal framework and how we can fix it legally instead of looking at, how we can solve it with science-based solutions or vice versa. So I think there's a real need for us all to be breaking down those silos, working together, and trying to figure out a way we can train the students best so that when they go out into the field they're in, they understand the need to cross collaborate with different things. So I think that's a wonderful idea and something that I hope that we can eventually put together, because I think it'd be really great for law students to make sure that they understand how to work collaboratively with folks in different disciplines than they are. Any other questions? I think Rachel is probably monitoring the chat, so I don't think I missed any in there, but happy to answer any other questions you guys might have.
I have a question. Well, so to what extent can you share some of the stuff that you're doing in manuscripts? Is that something that you can do? Is there restrictions?
It just depends. I gave you the two very public things that we were doing because they've been all over the news and they're filed publicly. Some of the other things we're doing are not public yet, but could be in the future. So it's really just about maintaining our client confidentiality. We have to be really, careful, and our clients always come first. So that's the only kind of thing that we couldn't. I will say some of the work that we're doing, I think, could translate nicely to some of those different types of case studies and things. Even if it's very public, I would still, absolutely, we would have a discussion with our client about whether they wanted that type of thing to be, publicly available. And, even if they wanted it to be, somewhere more public, but maybe their name not included, I'm sure we could work around those types of things. But, some of the stuff can be very sensitive. Some of the types of things that you're tackling in the environmental space are, unfortunately, situations where you have much more powerful interests than the clients that we take on involved. And so we have to be very, very careful and very cognizant that we are putting our clients first and protecting them always first. But I think there's definitely opportunity for that.
Right, thank you. My last question. Do you see any conflict of interest with like being assisted with case? Like, let's say like there's a case that involves Case Western. Is there any conflict of interest? Are there things that you do just to make sure that like the fact that you are with case doesn't influence does it influence the cases you take? Could it influence some of the cases that you take? And
Yes, that's a really good question. And some of the things that I kind of gloss over because I've been an attorney for so long. So thank you for asking that. So we are our own law firm. So the Kramer Law Clinic is its own law firm, and we don't have some of those restrictions or obligations. We also are lucky, and one of the reasons I think that this is the first and only environmental law clinic in the state is we are a private university. So we don't have some of those different very problematic or potentially problematic situations that public schools that are funded publicly could have in this space. And I will say that, you know, I've felt very lucky to be here and very supported by both the associate dean who manages the Kramer Law Clinic and also our co-deans at the law school. If we have something that is, you know, slightly touchy, you know, again, the House Bill 507 could be an example case, you know, that's something that we you know, we've developed and we've had that conversation. I run it up to our associate dean that manages the law clinic itself. But that's not something that we have to, you know, run up the chain and ask, because again, it's not appropriate to do that anyway for our client's sake, because it's a confidential issue and we're their attorneys and this is the law firm that deals with that. So we do very, very robust conflict checks. And it's one of the biggest, you know, not difficult processes, but one of the biggest things that it's really important because we do have students coming in and out on an every semester basis. So we have a robust conflicts check where anybody that's, you know, we're considering taking on as a client, it comes into the clinic, and we have something that goes out, and all law firms do this. But so you have a whole conflict check, and if any student that's looking at that has some sort of, you know, they worked for you know, whatever entity you're thinking of representing, or there's some sort of, you know, association there. We have lots of different ways to either, you know, in the worst case scenario, we absolutely can't take a client on. In another case, you know, we may be able to screen the student off of it because, you know, someone in the health law clinic who will have no association with the environmental law clinic on something, or I guess First Amendment clinic, let's say, that will not have anything to do with it. We can make sure they're screened from all files. And that's something that law firms do on a regular basis. You just have a conflicts check, you make sure that there are no, you know, overlaps, and then you're able to go ahead and represent those folks. So it's something we take really, really seriously. It's an ethical obligation we have as attorneys to make sure that we're running those kinds of checks and taking on only the clients that we can.
Thank you.
How many students have you had each semester so far?
Yeah, great question. So we, under the way that the state Supreme Court has this set up, we are capped at 8 students because they are with us for 20 hours a week. So that 6 credit hour translates to 20 hours a week. So it's a lot of time we spend with them, making sure that they're, you know, really there for their clients. I think when I was in law school, I only had a 3 credit hour clinic, and, you know, it was great, but it's much more immersive when you get to do more. So it's been really wonderful to have that. So in our first semester, we had 6 students, which I thought was pretty good for a brand new clinic. And then our second semester, we had 6 new students, and then we had 3 students that wanted to stay on and be part of our advanced clinic. And so those students that stayed on, they had the choice. They could ask, you know, to be on. I kind of put my foot down on nothing less than 3 credit hours, because at that point, they're not really serving their clients. It's just not as effective. So all 3 of them were on for 3 credit hours. And able to, instead of coming to class, they just focused on their casework because they were already, you know, they'd gone through the whole training for semester, and they just would drop by my office when they needed me. We have regular meetings, you know, weekly meetings with the teams of students that are working with each client, and weekly meetings for each client, even if they're on multiple cases. So we had a total of 12 students over the first year, which I thought was really excellent for a new clinic. And it's really exciting to see where the students are headed next, and to be a resource for them as this moves forward. Graduation was just Saturday, so it was really exciting. Got to meet some of the students' families and their partners, and it was really great to be able to you know, see who's been supporting them through a difficult 3 years, because law school is not necessarily like the most fun people have in their lives. But I feel like they really enjoyed the clinic, and it was fun to have such a good set of students for our first year.
That's great. Yeah, we do have a question here in the chat. They said, although your work in East Palestine provided services to an entire community of individuals, have you ever had a community as a client? As an example, in a case of potential water or air contamination, the entire community would be impacted.
Yes, that's a great question. I would say currently, no, we haven't, because we're only, 2 semesters in, so we haven't. But I can tell you we're working with various community members on issues like this that you're suggesting. And while it may not be the entire, entirety of the area, but it's the impacted community that would be looking at this. I anticipate having cases like this. And, again, we're working with some individuals right now on different things, but I think, it could turn into that. And you're welcome.
Well,
Just like that.
hey, well, we are at time, so I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Thank you so much, Randy. This is a great presentation. It's really interesting to hear all about the new clinic and what all you've accomplished in the past year. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you guys for having me. It's always great to be here. And like I said, if anybody has questions, either for the law clinic, I know this was somebody's question, or another area that one of the clinics here at the Kramer Law Clinic focuses on. I think I'll send you guys my slides. So there's links in there, but there are links to tell you a little bit more about each of the different clinics that we have here at Case Western. So thanks for joining, and I appreciate the opportunity.